Comrades, I am Admiral Andre, and welcome back to the next installment of our tutorial series of the various new craft that we can build with stock Kerbal Space Program with the Making History expansion. Today we're going to be looking at the Voskhod spacecraft and booster, so this will be a bit shorter than the previous one because we'll be using the vehicles that we've built already and just adapting them. Now I have to say, in the previous episode I received a comment which I'm very pleased about. Somebody called me the Bob Ross of KSP, which I appreciate, so thank you for that, comrade. Yes, so let's begin by once again reviewing the Google images and information just so we get our bearings straight before we start working on the craft. Okay, comrades, so let's have a look at the Voskhod. Now, if you just look at the basic outline here, we can clearly see the Voskhod is the exact same size as the Vostok craft. And I have to say it quite surprised me to learn that before the Voskhod actually took 2 crew members to orbit, it took 3. Can you believe it? They managed to crush 3 people into a 1-person craft, essentially. So that's why we're going to start with the 3 Kerbal variant of Voskhod. And let's just have a look here. So essentially we still have the same antennas and so on. We just see 2 basic differences here. And the one is the booster on the top of the capsule and of course the inflatable airlock. But let's leave the airlock for now. We're first focusing on the 3 Kerbal variant. So let's just have a look here. This is of course just Wikipedia explaining some things, but it's actually quite interesting, you know. Why was there a backup solid fuel booster on top of the Voskhod capsule? And that was because if the re-entry rocket failed, it would take the Voskhod craft a very long time for its orbit to decay naturally, which was not really a concern for Vostok because it was in a much lower orbit than the Voskhod. So that's why it's really an essential feature. So we're going to be building that. Let's just see if I can get some images here. Just some general ones. We see that that booster is about, well, it's very difficult to judge here. These images are not always the largest here, but it's about half or just over half the length of the actual capsule there. So we'll keep that in mind when we build it. There we can now see the one with the airlock. So there it's the same exact thing with the retro booster there, except of course it has the airlock, and we can see they actually had some television cameras there as well. The antennas on the top we're going to leave exactly the same as well, so the hoop antennas and the hook antennas and all of that. I don't know what these 2 things are. I've never seen these before. Most images don't show that. Interesting. Let's have a bit of a look here. Let's just have a look. See, these diagrams also just show the normal retro booster there. And also, of course, the radiators on the bottom and all of that. So this craft really is quite an easy adaptation because it's just taking the basic Vostok and then upgrading it essentially. Now, very interesting, you might also wonder, what happens in an abort situation? And then it would be bad news, comrades, because it did not have any launch escape system. So any kind of booster failure would lead to the loss of the crew. There was, of course, work on the launch escape system for the Soyuz, but it was not ready for the Voskhod yet. So that's also why they say it's one of the most dangerous craft ever built. Let's just have a look. So this is again the one with the airlock, and this is actually an interesting one. Let's have a bit of a look at this. We see here that the side antennas, they now actually show 4 here, but it's on the opposite side of the airlock. Interesting. So the airlock is not on the side of the door. This is something I need to look into a bit more. Normally you can't really tell. It's very difficult to say here. What's this one? This is Voskhod 1. Of course, it did not have the airlock though. So there's another one. It again shows the antennas on the opposite side of the actual airlock. Interesting. This is a good detail to see now. This one shows that as well. But now I'm wondering here, is the door still on this side? Surely it has to be. So maybe it was like a whole change around of the antennas. This one shows 4 again. So I think we'll have to go with 4 as well. But now surely you need to open the door to get into the airlock, and I doubt they would put 2 doors on, because that's another failure point where the craft could actually run into depressurization problems. So I think we're going to just place it over the door. We'll just swap the antennas around to the other side. Now this one again shows these upper, looks like retro rockets, but I know this is what this main one was for. Very interesting here. One can spend so much time on this. This is from, I think, Buzz Aldrin's Space Program Manager. Maybe not, but it kind of looks like it is. This just again shows only the re-entry booster there. And of course the antennas on the opposite side, which I guess makes sense because they would be sticking into the airlock, so we don't want that. And as always, of course, comrades, if you're looking for a spacecraft of any description, someone will have a Kerbal version somewhere. So that's one of the truisms which I really like, actually, because it shows how far Kerbal has come. Now this one doesn't show any of the antennas. This is Buzz Aldrin's one, of course. Another great game. Let's just see. Let's look at the booster now. So for the booster, we see there's a picture of a launch. Of course, now we have to open this, but you see it's not only a white paint scheme anymore. Pretty much the bottom half of the rocket is the same, but after that we have this gray and then this sort of orange-ish color for the fairing, and I suppose for this bottom part as well. So we're going to have to try and look at that. Let's just have a look at this again. This is the R7 family, but now this shows the Molnia. I'm not sure it shows the specific one that they used for Voskhod, because that was not the same as the Vostok booster, because it was a heavier craft. Now for us it makes no difference because the previous booster was so overdeveloped anyway, but we can see here, I think the bottom stage is the same, because if we look at the length again, it's more or less the same ratio. The top though, I think the upper stage is a bit longer, because of course it needed to burn a bit longer and have more power. I'm not sure if it used a different engine, so maybe it didn't have more power, but it needed to get the heavier spacecraft into orbit. So anyway, I think that's enough for this now, comrades. Let us go back into the game and I will see you there in a moment. Aha, so we're back again, comrades. Now let's have a look. I loaded up the tutorial Vostok MHE rocket here. Now I have to say, I did tweak this a tiny little bit after the video before I uploaded the craft file to Dropbox. I just can't help myself. I actually made a series of notes here. As I was editing the video, I was thinking about ways that we can improve this. And I had things like the fairings, for example, instead of the upper fairing covering the whole craft there, it only covers the capsule because the lower part is already covered by a fairing. Then the gimbal on the upper engine I disabled, as it should have been. The thrust I didn't tweak, but we can tweak that, of course. Antennas, the antennas I moved in a little bit more on the upper part of the capsule, so it looks like it's sort of detached in a way when we re-enter. It's not so obvious anymore. The fairing detach force of the sort of engine covering here I brought down because it was a little too high for my taste anyway. The decoupler force here I brought even more down because it still had a bit of a kick to it. I think we could even bring it down to 5%. Then the monopropellant power I turned down to a 66.5 on all of the thrusters because again I thought it was overperforming there. And the, what was this? Trying to see what I wrote here now. Oh, the top fairing again. That's just the same thing twice. Anyway, comrades, so let's have a look. The first thing, of course, is we can see our upper stage here is very small compared to the image that we just saw. So I think it is in order for us to expand it. So let's have a look. This is, of course, the easy part. So I'm going to just be using another tank like that. I think we could probably get away with a longer one too. Actually, that might not be a bad idea because I want to see what color schemes are available. Let's see, so we've used this one. That's what we want. It settles the whole matter, comrades. We are happy now. Of course, I have to rebuild the whole engine thing again, but that's not a problem. I just want to see which way should this be. I think it should be like that because it had an orange part where the engine was. So this looks a bit more accurate, I think. Now again, I have to say, because I see there's quite a few other channels where people build recreations of Kerbal craft of their real equivalents. But for me, the goal is always to strike a balance, comrades, between recreating the craft and sort of staying in line with Kerbal. So there is always something we can improve and critique and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's about still making it manageable so we don't spend 20 hours on a build, but it still looks pleasing. So I hope I'm able to strike that balance. Hopefully. So let's see, if I take 4 times again. Now, of course, we have to remember to swap everything around here. I'll take the same engine. Its gimbal is disabled. Now, I want to repeat this thing. Of course, there was another thing I thought about. It is not inaccurate to use one of the engine plates for this. Let's have a look at that. Just have to find the right one now. Like that, possibly. Then, of course, we could change it to, let's say, a short version and then attach that there. Then the engine is covered by a fairing as well. But it doesn't stick out too much because I move it up. If you didn't, it might be a good idea to use the engine plate, but I don't want to do that. It's going to break up the whole thing here now, the color scheme. So I think let's do the same thing. We move it in like that, so it still looks like it has some kind of pipes running around there, and you know, all the details are still there, but it's more in line with the bottom of the craft. Then we can just bring this in again and move it up. Just see if we can fit that in here nicely again. It's a bit of a gap. Mind the gap. There we go. Now let's see, I also wanted to have a look at this, but I don't think it's going to work. Let's just remove the old stage here. You see, these vernier engines hang off the side quite a lot. If we could move them in a little bit, but now the problem is they're going to start interfering with the decoupler, so we have to be very gentle with this. Let's just try it anyway, a little bit, but I don't want it to knock the fairing there. Hopefully it's still going to have enough clearance. We'll see, but it looks a bit nicer if it's more flush with the craft there. Now the bottom, I think we don't need to change anything. The color scheme is still the majority white with the grey stripe on the bottom. We can't really change the colors of these engine shrouds, just the size. You see it's locked there. But that's fine. Now we get to the actual craft itself. Let's see. I'm going to just remove all of this. Or we could even save at this point. Just to make sure. Oh, good grief, my spelling is out the window today. Voskhod, save. Now let's move it away. Good, and of course we'll have to do the same with the top part. Now, comrades, we get to the issues. Let's begin from the bottom because that's easiest. So we have the radiators and all of that still here that I'm happy with. I saw again now with those images, I don't like this. No, what's happening here? No. I see another thing to fix. Those thrusters are clipping into the engine. Never ever, I never support clipping into a nozzle. I simply don't go in for that sort of thing. Of course, now the other thing is it's going to not fit as nicely with the engine shroud, but it doesn't need a shroud because the whole thing is in a fairing, so it's fine. Let's just have a look. Yes, the other thing was I saw that on those images now, again, they had 2 antennas on the bottom here. Of course, it's going to be difficult to create 2 times symmetry now. Like that. But then again, the engine or the thrusters will burn right into those antennas. I don't know, comrades. I don't like that sort of thing. But we can have a look. Let's save that for last then. Now we come to this issue here. I still like all the thrusters here and the tanks as well. Although I do suppose... Oh, good grief. Why do I always make things more difficult? I've seen also some images that don't have a tank here where this attachment arm is located. So this area ideally should be empty. Let me just have a look here. You're not going to see this now, but I'm just going to move out of the game here and just go back to Google Images. Let's see, where could I find an example of this now? I'm under the booster. Yes, so unfortunately I do see that there is, now I couldn't see where it actually goes towards this arm because the images are from different angles. But then again also if we do now remove it here, we're going to have to remove it on the other side as well. Is that something that we really want to do though? I'm wondering, I'm dubious about that, but let's try it out, comrades. We can always experiment. So we want to keep that empty there. So it will have to be like this. But again, as far as we can go. And then we just want to fill up this section in the middle. So this will have to be 2 times symmetry, unfortunately. I'll just move that again. And here I was saying it's not going to take so much time. Oh well. I like this. Let's just move that again with the absolute offset. The thing is also we don't need that much monopropellant. Now the question is that what we want? You know, I like this. I'm gonna go with this for now. It leaves these gaps now on the pictures. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna show you those pictures. That would be the right thing to do. So, let's go to Google again. You see, comrades, like this. This is now a good... Oh, I don't need to open that. But you see, the airlock is on the side here. So, I would say 45, would that be 90? 90 degrees offset from that. In line with the upper antenna there. We have a gap in the external tanks there. We could even put some kind of instrument there, but I'm not going to bother with that. But you see, it's empty there. This one shows it as well. You see, the same place again. Want more images? This now looks like it's from the other side. There's also an empty space. Okay, I'm happy with that, comrades. We're going to leave those 2 slots empty. This one now again shows no empty slots. You know, that's the thing, the pictures don't always have the same level of detail. Oh well, it adds a bit of idiosyncrasy to our creation. I think there's the thing again. Yes, we're gonna go with that. There's even stuff up here, but now that would be a little too much, I think. So let's go back into the game. Right, so I think we're happy with this, because here it does fit with this sort of exterior structure. Now the thing is we have to really swap around the antennas. Now I'm thinking actually what we could do that would be easiest here is just to take the whole bottom of the craft and rotate it. There we go. There's no reason why we can't do that. The orientation of the control will still follow the capsule's orientation, so this won't change anything in terms of pitch and yaw and roll and all of that. So let us just add another antenna right here. Just one more, I think. That also helps to differentiate this craft from the Vostok. Just go back to the local offset. Yes, I like that. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Now we just have to remember to go back to the action groups and put this new antenna on there as well. Or is it now? Let's see what's happening here. Extend, no. Maybe it is already on here. Yes, it actually is, because I copied the other one. Interesting, I didn't know that happened. Okay, that's good then. So now here is of course our door. So on this we want to place the inflatable airlock. So to do that, really, if we just have a look at the airlock, just think it's under coupling there it is. So if we just put it on like that, bang, there it is. Now of course it doesn't fit cleanly on the bottom there, it goes back in, which is not a problem of course, but for our design I think we want to change it. And the airlock was actually detachable on the Voskhod. But now actually no, I'm getting so much ahead of myself. I need to remind myself. We are first building the 3 Kerbal version of Voskhod. So then let's just move this away. Take this whole thing. Okay, the only things we have on here are the antennas. So throw it away and begin with the 3, the pomegranate. There we go. Almost made a mistake there. Bad one. Oh well. So there we go. We have to start again, comrades. So now we have the 3 Kerbal version, which actually does add quite a lot of weight. Let's see. This one is 2.27 tons versus 0.7. So that is something we'll have to take into account. Now let's just fix all of the antennas again. Let's just get this whole thing sorted. Maybe I'll put them a bit higher this time, like on this line here. That might look a bit nicer. But then again, they still have to be in line with the antennas on the bottom. No, has to be out a little. Still have to do all of the rotations and rolls and all of that. Just make sure the offset is correct. Yes, that'll work. Now, of course, we have to move this in all the way here. Or almost all the way, just so that a little bit of that grey area still sticks out. Then again, the rest of the antenna, the white, the red and, well, white and red again, will be completely free there. Yes, like that. So now we just want to do the same here. Copy that and place it again more or less in line. Just move this back in. Now I first need to make sure, this is now purely for my own sake, that it's all in line here. I do like how that looks. Yes, there we go. So now all of that is back again. So we just go back to our action groups. And this, of course, will need to be toggled. Good. It will save us a headache later on. Then, what else do we really need to do here? Ablator force percent. Oh yes, of course. We'll bring that down to, let's say 10 this time. A bit less than before. I think pretty much that's it. We don't need airlocks or anything else, comrades. This craft is purely for taking 3 Kerbals up into space, and I suppose one of the sort of practical functions this would serve is to give your Kerbals some experience if you're playing with a career mode, because then they can all go into orbit there and at least get their astronaut wings and first stars there of experience. And you can of course take an engineer and a scientist as well. So I think, is that it? Let's look at the colors. No, it will still have to be No, it will still have to be the same. Definitely. And I think that's almost it, but not really. Of course, there's a few things missing, comrades. The parachutes, number 1. Now, here we now get to the area of the retro rockets, comrades, because the Voskhod landed with the crew inside, unlike the Vostok, since, you know, it would be nearly impossible for 3 to jump out. There was no way to eject them. That's why it didn't have a launch escape system either. So it has to land a bit more gently. Now for that they had... Oh, it's now difficult to actually create this here. I'm wondering how I'm going to do this. Because they had these... It's basically like the separatrons. That's what we're going to use for that. But they had them attached to the parachute lines. So that's impossible for us. Let me just have a look. What are we going to use for this? I think we do need a bigger parachute. So we will go with the Mark II R radial parachute. Then we could of course go with a big one, but that's overkill, I think. So let's just get this thing away again. And now sort of place it in the middle. This will also still free up this node on the top for the re-entry rocket. Now let's just try and get this sort of in the middle, but this won't matter too much. Again, this part is a bit... We'll just do it like that. There we go. That looks pretty much in the middle. Of course, the whole thing is offset there and all of that, but what's the weight of this? 100 kilos. I think that won't really affect anything, so I think we're okay. Let's just move this back into the craft. That doesn't really look very nice. There, perfect. And of course it will still deploy as normal. Now we do need to think about these rockets though. It's impossible to know exactly the speed that we're going to have when we land, but I think it will be fine. But I still want to add the separatrons. We of course have more freedom with Kerbal than real life. They can take a bit of a knock when they land. Now placing these on the bottom would not be a good idea, because the re-entry heat would damage them. So what are we going to do here? With the Soyuz, of course, they had a heat shield to protect these as well. Interesting. Is it necessary though? We would just need 2 of them, and I would be more tempted to place them on the top of the craft like this. But now, of course, making this look nice is going to be a challenge, to say the least. If it fires like that, it's not really going to have much effect. And that doesn't look very good. When it comes to this sort of thing, it's like I said earlier about the balance. You know, if it's a question of the functionality matching the real thing or the aesthetic, then I'll take the aesthetic. This doesn't quite look right. This doesn't quite look right. I do think we could get away with putting one on the bottom though, and it not burning up. Let's have a look now. Of course I can't detach this decoupler here in the VAB, so we're gonna have to see if we can move inside the thing. Oh good grief, that's going to be pretty impossible. What if we just have the 2 like this? Now this gives us a thrust to weight of 1.44, which is too much. I think also it's going to burn for too long. It needs to just be a 1 second burn right before you touch down. Let's bring it down to just over 1. Because the parachutes will bring us down to about, let's say 6 or 7 meters per second. If we're lucky. Might be a bit more, but then this will bring us to a stop. I don't want the thing going back up again. So we can do a test with that, but now how on earth are we going to do this? Because we can't see what's happening in there. So is it actually sticking out the bottom, or what is happening? So difficult, so difficult. Okay, we'll leave it there, comrades. I'll do a test before we do the actual launch, just for myself, so I can see what it looks like. And if I want to go back to having no retro thrusters, then we can also do that. But I'll just leave this for a test. Now we've done everything here except place the retro rocket thing for re-entry on top. Now to do this, what are we going to use? I think we'll use the Oscar B fuel tanks. Of course, we need a decoupler first. Flip that around, place it there, place this on top. Another one. I think 3 would be too much, honestly. That's too long. That looks a bit weird. No, 2 would be the right amount. So in this case, of course, we must empty them out. Then move the decoupler down just a little because it's not fitting very nicely there. There we go. Now just turn the force percent down to, let's say, 15 again. Now in our version here, this is of course just a housing for the retro rockets, but in reality this whole thing would be a solid fueled retro rocket, but we can't really get a one piece to do that. This is way too big, and this is the smallest we have. So it's going to have to be this. Now I've done tests before. Let's just remove this, where 6 of these would be enough for re-entry, at least from a low orbit. So let's see if we can just see what the Kerbal engineer thinks about that. Actually, the best thing would be to attach them here. So it says a thrust to weight ratio of 3.74, which is way too much. So we're going to turn the thrust limiter down. Let's say 33. That gives us 1, 2, 3, which I think is much better. Still, of course, the same delta V, but at least much more comfortable for the occupants. Now we just move them in like that, and we just want the nozzles sticking out. Don't want them clipping into each other, but at least like this they look sort of like they're part of the same nozzle. There, I'm happy with that, comrades. So we are done with that as well. Now of course we're just going to sort out our staging here. So we're going to have the parachute, then we're going to have the retro rockets. This thing will detach before the parachute. This thing will also detach. Let's make that detach first. Bottom engine first as well, because normally that's what we would use to re-enter, but if that fails, then we use the solid fuel and detach that, then detach the rest. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now we just have to place the, start from the bottom again. Actually we can actually leave that fairing there, or the shroud. Why not? Let's leave it there. The nozzles are not sticking out of it, so I'm happy with that. There we go. Now we just have to add the top, which is now easy because we have an attachment point there. Take this, and we're going to use the grey and orange, I think, for this one. Build the fairing. Now let's just have a look. It has to go out just a little bit again. Yes, ideally it would be flush with the rest of the rocket, but that is a bit difficult for us because of the tanks and the various things. I think that looks much better. I would ideally like to change the color here as well. Let me have a think about this for now. I just want to go back to Google Images, comrades. Of course, you're not going to see this. I just want to have a look again at the Vostok booster, but we have taken a look at that already. So the fairings on the top are essentially orange, then we have grey, then we have white, then we have orange again. Now I can't put white in here. That's not going to look right. So we'll pretend this little fairing housing is the white there. The other thing though is the top must also be orange. So luckily we can sort of change that, but it's not full on orange. But this also is good because I can't change the color of the nose cone, but this now sort of blends the white and the orange together. Yes, comrades, we're almost done. Good grief, I like this. Now, we're not going to bother with an abort sequence because there wasn't one. Of course, you can still do the same as we did before if you want one. Actually, it should still be there. No, it won't because... well, let's put it in. This is Kerbal. We still care about our crew. So, abort. All the engines will shut down. The separatrons will fire. And then... we just want this capsule to decouple and then... I think that's it really. Then we want the fairing as well. Okay, it is there. Custom 1 is the antennas. Then custom 2 will be that decoupler. It's already there. Okay, we don't need to worry. Actually, we should test that one day just to see if it actually works. Now all the engines go, the decouplers, the fairing, not the fairings, the verniers. Then they go. Then I think we're still going to have the fairing go before the upper stage because by that time we're already high up in the atmosphere. Now let me just have a look. So it's going to be this again. Both of those separatrons. Not that. No, yes, that of course. Okay, so that's done. Now the next stage, the upper stage. Not those though. It's messed up the whole story here now. So important to have a look at all of this. Okay, so that's now sorted. So then we want that to go and decouple as well. Good, okay. Then I think we're now at the craft itself. So then its engine goes. Otherwise the abort there will go, then that will detach, then the craft will detach, then the parachute, then the retro rocket. Say, for goodness sake. Okay, we're there. Comrades, we're there. Now let's just work on the thrust to weight, because things have changed a little bit now. So on the bottom we're still fine, but when we get to S7, that's the upper stage. It's way too little there. It's underperforming because of the extra weight here. But do we need that? No, we don't. This is still overkill. Let's bring it down. 4.5. Let's again give us a bit of wiggle room. 4.6. I think that works. It's not quite 1 yet, but it doesn't have to be. So we'll just have to remember the upper stage is a bit weaker because of the extra weight, which is, I think, pretty accurate, honestly. Now we can turn the rest of it down here. Why not? Let's do that. Of course, by doing this, we change when the boosters burn out. Let's change the core stage as well. That's better. 1.79 and 1.3. Then the core stage will burn for another minute and 6 seconds after the boosters detach. That works for me, comrades. So we'll save again. And I think that does it. So I'm going to just do a very quick test launch here and then I will get back to you for the real thing. Comrades, I did an abort test and it actually works. The force of the 2 separatrons at the top is enough to separate the capsule and the nose cone there. So that I'm confident about. I also had a look. The little rockets that we put under the capsule, they actually are completely hidden inside the capsule. But they still work, so I think we're going to actually keep it like that, because it would look a bit weird to have these nozzles stick out the bottom and then of course they might blow up during re-entry. And the real thing had these retro rockets or landing rockets on the parachute, so I think this is the closest we can get to sort of still keep the aesthetic alive here and the functionality, so the balance again. Then the parachute slows us down to 10 meters per second at sea level, comrades. So you can see it's not enough for a nice soft landing. So we do need the retro rockets there. So they actually perform their function perfectly well. Let's just have a look here. What's the tolerance for this capsule? 12 meters, so we actually get close to that. If we land in a higher elevation area, we might actually blow up if we did not have the retro rockets or the landing rockets. So we have to remember this is very important, comrades. But then I'm happy with this, so we're going to do the launch of this again in the sped up fashion. I just want to reinforce it as well, just because of this central part again. And then I will meet you in orbit, comrades. Wish us luck here. We have 3 lives on the line, but at least we have an abort system. Good grief. We are here, comrades, we are here. And I have to say there's a few things that I want to change. Now I have to remember what they are. Good grief. Good grief. Oh yes, I think one of the real challenges we have is the fact that the decouplers for the boosters are way overpowered. That's why we have this weird kick there. So I'm going to turn those down. The other thing is we are now entirely enveloped in darkness, so let's go around here. Just for the sake of the recording, let's just see. Yes, the upper stage had to burn quite a long time because it's relatively underpowered, but I have to say again I like this for thematic reasons. I think because of the way that the whole Voskhod was sort of rushed in its design and all of that, it would also, and it's heavier of course, would mean that the upper stage generally would struggle a little bit. But if you want to change that, now again I don't know if they use the same engine as for the Vostok, but I imagine they would have. If you want to have a bit more power there, comrades, you can just tweak, of course, the vernier engines. They are very low still, so just turn that up, but I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm happy with it. Let's just detach now. We still have lots of fuel left, I have to say. Aha, so that force is also reduced there for the decoupling of the sidings there. Now we are in our orbit, so let us deploy our antennas. And then just move so we can actually see what's happening a bit more. There we go, happy Kerbals here in orbit. They're not alone anymore, comrades. It's certainly a great improvement. I like to turn the SAS off when I'm doing this because it will try to compensate. Also helps to save a little bit. You see now how finicky it gets. Then yes, that's it really for the Voskhod, the initial one anyway, because this was not meant for spacewalks, I have to say, because they could not fit in their spacewalk suits in this capsule with 3 people. It was simply too little space. So that's why they it was so dangerous as well. They couldn't get their helmets on, I think, if I'm not wrong. So if there was a depressurization, they would be dead. And so yes, that's why only 2 Kerbals can go on the spacewalk version. So yes, but of course you can just have them EVA as normal if you want. Let's have a look inside this. I haven't appreciated this enough. So there we have a window, there we have a window. And of course our one that I guess would be pointing towards the ground here. But it's also good for landing because we can see the horizon. Let's just roll. There we go. So we can see a bit there. Now let's change seats here. So yes, very cramped, but for Kerbals that's not too much of an issue. But you see, I doubt they could fit their helmets on here without clipping, so they really can't do that. More lighting maybe, and let's see from the other side. Unfortunately not much to see here, just a few small windows to sort of half look out of, but still, I would go. Not sure if I would go in a real Voskhod though, but if this craft was a bit safer, I would certainly go, even if I could only get a glimpse there. Now, the re-entry is not so much important right now because we still have to look at the 2 Kerbal versions, so I do like the 4 antennas, it's a nice touch there. So let's go back to the Space Center and just revert this. It's a shame, I know, because they're in this nice orbit here. Should we leave them? Try a different crew? Oh, good grief. Sure, why not? Let's go back.